Hi everyone, it's Vincent with Vascotoys. On today's episode of Action Vasco, I'm really excited to show you guys a destruction piece that I created as a destroyed warehouse that has some removable rubble props. So let's talk dios. The diorama itself is 16 inches across, it is 14.5 inches deep, and it's 15 inches to this point right up here. It is made out of XPS insulation foam, as all of our dioramas are. It's fully magnetized and it has 5 pieces. This ceiling piece comes off and goes right back on. And this piece is a 360-degree finish, meaning it is painted all the way around, top to bottom. Everywhere that there's a surface, it has been painted. So I'm gonna go into specifics on the details of this, but this diorama is already sold and it does include 4 different rubble pieces that are meant to simulate the destruction from this. So there's some different pieces to this. There's the regular bricks. This is supposed to be like the ceiling tiles that have come down, and then there's some other just generic concrete kind of rubble that is included there as well. There's a large oil barrel and 3 smaller ones that are included. And with that all said, we're going to take a closer look at the specific features of this diorama. Going top to bottom, we're going to start on the roof. I mentioned before, the roof is all one single piece, and it's removable because there are magnets here and here. But the idea with this is that you had some sort of explosion or destruction happening along the edges of this. So this border or half wall, whatever you want to call it, normally would extend around the whole building, but obviously there's been some destruction here. So there are some permanent, meaning they're glued down, destruction rubble pieces on both sides of this, where the half wall which is painted this tan color is deteriorated, and you can tell that the inside of this is a different color, the way that, you know, concrete would look if this was painted concrete. So that's what I've got there. These are sort of just kind of cement tile kind of arrangement on the top of the flooring of this roof. And so you have Marvel Legends Hawkeye in here looking down, getting ready to do what archers do, probably pick off a bad guy with his bow and arrow. And this is something that works really well for a lot of different kind of setups, but one of the cool things is that the magnets will support, even though there's no supporting structure right here, will support the weight of your average 6-inch Legend right, all the way to the edge of this, so you can do a lot of different cool things. Obviously, if you have somebody like Juggernaut, this is not going to hold him, but anything from this half, you're definitely going to be good to place figures on because those magnets are there and it's so close to where that support is happening. So this is kind of a first for me. I don't normally put ceilings or roofs on all of my dioramas, but I think for this one it was really necessary, and I think it does some really cool things for lighting setups on the inside of the diorama. Let's take the roof off and this side wall off, this half wall. And just so you guys can see with this, this piece, the cement beam is permanently glued onto the brick, and it's the same thing on this wall here. These are permanently glued here. Just a quick tip on this though. So typically in the past what I would do would be glue all of these kind of structures onto the walls before I paint them, but for me at least that makes it incredibly hard to give it as clean of a paint job as it can possibly have. So in this particular case I actually painted the brick wall by itself and painted these 3 beams first, and when they were finished, when there was a finished paint job, then I glued them on. That way there was no potential to have like some of this gray on the bricks or some of the red and orange on the cement. So I kind of started doing that more recently, and I think it makes for just a cleaner, more professional paint job. So that's just a tip that I've kind of came across recently. So the main thing I want to talk about here is kind of the feature piece of this diorama. This diorama has a couple feature pieces, but one of the main ones are the windows, and they're broken glass windows. This is actually plexiglass, and the window frames are 3D printed frames. And the way I do these makes it a lot easier to do windows. I have a custom 3D print design that allows me to kind of just push the windows in, and the back of the frame is the width of this foam, so it fits perfectly. And then what I do is I just hot glue the plexiglass, or sometimes I use action figure plastic, but in this case with the broken glass I thought it'd be better to use plexiglass into the window frame. So with this, the way I got this effect is very simple. I cut the plexiglass to the size of the window frames, and before I glued it in, I took the spike end, or whatever you call the sharper end of a hammer, and I hit the plexiglass in many different places. In some spots I just made it look like, you know, there was kind of like a spider crack kind of thing going on. In other places I made full kind of breakage of that windows. Really important to mention, wear protective eyewear when you're doing that, of course, because the plexiglass shatters everywhere. So please make sure you're being safe. And that was the first step. So then once I felt like I had enough cracking and shattering for the effect that I was looking for, I took a just a white acrylic paint and dry brushed it all over this to give it a foggy effect, because if the windows were shattered, there's a chance that it's gonna look kind of foggy. Also, if it's just been here over time, there's a chance it looks foggy. So that's the second step. And then the third step was that I took brown acrylic paint and dry brushed some of that on very conservatively. I didn't want it to look too dirty. I wanted you to be able to kind of see somebody on the other side of the window, so you could get some pictures like this shot of Spider-Man, Kingpin, and Electro that I recently did. And I think the results from what I've heard on Instagram, people seem to like this look, so I think it came out pretty good and I'm happy with it. So that's this wall. And then this wall is just a straight up brick wall, but the way I like to do my bricks, especially in this kind of situation, is I like to put a lot of recessed bricks, you'll notice. And of course there are some that are chipped. So with the chip bricks, it's as simple as just cutting off a little section with the X-Acto knife. But with the recessed bricks, all I do is take a flathead screwdriver and push in both sides and try to give it that look. And then when you paint those, I use red, a dry brushing of red, and then a dry brushing of orange. The dry brushing is really going to allow you to kind of pick up this look where you can really tell the bricks are recessed because you push them in. So I have that in place here, and that's something that I really enjoy doing. So I hope you guys like it. Another thing I just want to mention here quickly, with this destroyed diorama, although it's destroyed, I wanted people to have, or the person buying this to have, the opportunity to do shots where this doesn't have to look completely destroyed. So if you have even the roof on from this angle and you have these two walls here, there's not too much destruction. Of course the windows are smashed in, but you can kind of get some shots as if this was a warehouse that's not destroyed, that maybe just has some banged up windows. So that was another kind of way that I had brought some versatility into this piece. I mentioned these rubble pieces before, and I want to show you guys really quickly a little bit more detail on these. So these are just foam pieces of bricks, and I actually took the parts that I had cut out of the walls as a starting point. I made the full brick wall first, and then I cut sections out, and then I cut the bricks individually, and then I just took them, put them on. This is cardstock, and this looks ugly on the bottom, but you're never gonna look, this is always gonna be on the floor, so I didn't paint that. But the foam is glued directly onto the cardstock, and then all of these bricks were glued together. And then I black washed the whole thing, and then I painted them the same way that I painted the walls. So this piece in particular can go in a couple different spots because there's, obviously brick damage to these walls, but the main area that I designed it to go in is right here in the corner, because there's so many bricks missing from right here. So if they fell in here, that would make sense. So that's where that one is kind of designed to go. The next one that has a sort of a fixed position is this corner piece. So this is supposed to be the corner of this wall, and there's not much of the wall left, of course. So you have the bricks for this part, and there's some here too that obviously fell in. And then on top of that, there is one piece of the ceiling tile here, and then generic concrete, which is just that gray dry brush. So that one is designed to go here mostly, although you really could move these around wherever you want, as long as it makes sense in terms of the destruction. So the third piece, and this is probably my favorite of any of the rubble pieces. For some reason I just like this one, but we've got a couple of bricks, of course, and then the rest of these pieces are mostly the ceiling or the roof tile. So this, and this, and then you've got a couple of the generic concrete pieces I was talking about, just because this is rubble. So this could go in a lot of different spots. I kind of like to put this one over here, but you really could put it in any of the area here where the ceiling could have caved in, and there's some bricks. And then this is the final one. Also, again, same kind of thing. So a couple bricks, couple pieces of the ceiling, the roof tile, and then just some generic gray rubble. So this one sits pretty good right here, but you can mix and match. So those are the main props that I designed for this diorama. I also included rusted up bluish barrel, full size barrel. You get this at the dollar store. Sand it, paint it. I believe it's the Beltran Bros have some really good tutorials on this. That's where I learned how to make these. So put that in there. And then I have 3 of these smaller barrels. You know, these would work well in the 1/18 scale as like a regular size barrel, but they also work in 1/12 scale as a smaller barrel. And I think it looks pretty cool when you have kind of different size ones next to each other. You know, just a little bit of variety in your shots for backdrop. So those are the diorama props that actually came with this piece. But I want to talk about a couple other things. So we're going to take these out, a couple other props. Take these ones out. And really, if you have other kinds of props that make sense in a warehouse, they'll work really well in here too. So, for example, here's a pallet. Maybe you have a couple different pallets. We got a propane tank, 3D printed. We'll put that there. Maybe we'll toss a couple of these. And let's add some crates, some shipping crates in too. Shipping crates. And you can do whatever you want with these, you know, figure out where you want them to be, where it makes sense for you. But, you know, this just kind of shows that sometimes, you know, you might spend some money to get a diorama like this, and if you think about different ways, different props that you can use the diorama, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of set up the diorama. And I know Boog, of course, from ACBA, always talks about when he's doing a shot, he'll have one set and then he'll do several different shots in that set. So this is kind of that same concept. You have the diorama, maybe you use the diorama by itself, and then maybe you use the diorama with a variety of different props in it, and then you've got a lot of versatility in your tour photography on somewhat of a, you know, lower budget than buying 2 or 3 full dioramas if you can put some props in it and make it look a little bit different. Here's the ACBA setup for this video. So I don't really use Deadpool a lot in my setups. I don't really know why. I think when I first started I had only a few Deadpool figures, so I probably used them a lot more then. But I've definitely learned a lot more about ACBA and posing and all of that. So we've got Deadpool in here, and he doesn't really need to, but he's ducking behind these crates, and he is going to try to fight Scourge, maybe get some of this gold that Scourge seems to be defending. But the focus is on Deadpool in this shot. You could also have the focus on Scourge if you want. We played around with some things and I thought it looked cooler with Deadpool in focus. So we have him there getting ready to take one of his katanas out and probably make easy work of Scourge and grab those gold bars. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you liked in the comments. Also, if you have ideas for future dioramas that we should consider, please leave those as comments. That's very helpful to us. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook @vascotoys, and in the next episode on our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys. See you next time.